What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay with Unfair Sports, and I want to tell you why I hate your NBA team this coming season. All that coming up in 20 seconds. Yo, what's good? Jay, Unfair Sports. We're trying to take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. Let's dive into why I hate your team. Next up, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder. It appears that Sam Presti is auditioning for a television series on Netflix about how to hoard draft picks. Please don't let your friends, especially the OCD ones, watch this because they're going to end up in front of GM offices trying to figure out ways to do the exact same thing that Sam is doing, like those crazy people were in front of the Container Store after watching the home edit. Unfortunately for the Thunder, they have a team of 12-year-olds. Well, at least most of them look 12, that they're going to try to compete with. Now, this roster is probably going to be a lot better this year with the veterans they have. But the question is going to be is how long those veterans are going to be on the team. We don't know. They still have a floor to hit as far as the cap goes, but that doesn't mean they got to keep those players. They can easily ship them out for additional assets. And that's something I expect out of Presti, especially as injuries start to pile up on actual contenders. When those teams come calling, Sam Presti's gonna listen. He's gonna ask for a first-round draft pick before he answers that phone call. All right, we're coming up on home stretch. Now we have the Orlando Magic, the team that actually had home court advantage throughout the entire bubble and was unable to win more than one playoff game. That squandering of resources is unacceptable. How do you expect for anyone to believe in you if you can't win in your home city? Yeah, you were in the bubble like everybody else, whoop-de-doo, but you were in Orlando. You were at home, basically. You're at Disney. You're the Magic because of Disney. Vucevic and Fultz are not the Shaq and Penny that we were hoping for. So don't get your hopes up. They do have a chance, though, to make the playoffs. That's really about it. Especially since you guys got a lot of anger built in your roster. Not only did you all lose in the playoffs in your home city and state, you also have a guy that was snubbed twice in the dunk contest, so you should be mad. And another guy that we're not allowed to Google his last name, especially if you're a guy. Don't Google that man's last name. But at least you got one player that's got a song named after him. Let's get him, Obama. Next up is Philly. Get smacked silly. Philadelphia 76ers. Time to trust the process, guys. Question is what exactly is this process? They have one player on their team that thinks he is the process. The other star player thinks that their team is a process. But I want to know which process is this. Is it getting swept in the first round of the NBA playoffs? The year after losing in the second round of the playoffs? The year after losing in the second round of the playoffs again? I feel like this team is regressing. They made a strategic move last year by getting Al Horford, who was really the one guy that gave Joel Embiid fits in the playoffs the year before, and that didn't even work out. They still got swept. And it's spending all that money on all those players that they ended up having to trade. So I really hope you guys don't think that Daryl Morey and then adding Doc Rivers to a team that already has pseudo locker room issues is actually going to work. Because remember where Doc just came from, they still got issues. And then when you talk about the way Daryl Morey likes to play ball, all analytics, shoot threes are in the paint. Ben Simmons does do one of them, but we now can predict exactly what he's going to do every single move. Next up, we got the Phoenix Suns. Robert Sarver, the owner of the team, has shown that he is fully invested in the future of this team in theory. He hired James Jones as general manager, good friend of LeBron James from the Cleveland years and Miami years. James went out there and traded for Chris Paul to give Devin Booker a true point guard that they've been needing for years. Now Devin can play off the ball, and CP3 can build DeAndre Ayton into the big man that he needs to be. And CP3 is really good at making big men play really good. But I don't know. They did get rid of their G League team, which is technically an avenue for developing young players. And because of that, I'm not sure if they are actually invested in developing their players. What does this look like in the future when Chris Paul is kind of at the end of his career and you're trying to convince Devin Booker to stay again? right around the time you got to extend DeAndre Ayton. Do I see the Suns doing a lot this year? I don't know. They're the fourth fighting for the crown in the Pacific Division. So can they do it? Got to dethrone the king and the ones that everybody else crowned as kings. All right, Portland Trail Blazers. We got to go ahead and talk about them. I've argued this for years, that you can't win a championship if your two best players and your go-to guys are under the height of 6'3". It seems to be the gospel. The only person I've ever seen that actually carried the team at that height and size is Isaiah Thomas, back with the Bad Boys Pistons. It's mainly because the team is built with a whole bunch of tough guys that made it a little bit easier for Isaiah to do his thing. Now, this team has two really good guards. Probably one of the best point guards in the NBA, potentially top 5, if not higher. And a shooting guard who's a perfect complement to his game. But they're both under 6'3". Now, Damian Lillard is shooting threes from half court now, which is potentially begging defenders to come out there and defend him. But will that be enough? I don't see that working long term. Half court threes just don't feel like it's a long-term solution for one of your biggest problems, which is size. And I have to give it to Paul George. He was right. That was, in theory, a bad shot, even though Damian Lillard's really good at those shots. But Damian Lillard's the only one that's going to shoot those shots. So all you got to do is defend him out there. Force him in. But we'll see if that works out. But outside of that, I think one thing they should do if they want to get off my list of why I hate you, even though I hate every single team for a particular reason, is give Carmelo Anthony the number 7 jersey. Bring back Olympic/hoodie Melo. And let's see that if he can turn the tide for them and become one of their key scorers to help rebuild this Portland team into a championship contender. Because remember, they had to fight to get to the 8th seed. If they had to fight to get to the 8th seed last year, they may have to fight again with the way the other Western Conference teams are trying to grow their rosters. Sacramento Kings, the other team out there in the Pacific Division in the Western Conference. Swiper the Fox has cut his hair, and I don't like it. I was here for Swiper with the little kid look because that was something about his game that made it just flourish more. But now he's trying to create a whole new identity. Now Sacramento doesn't have an identity. Their identity was youth, emergence, him, Marvin Bagley, Buddy Hield, even though they didn't really want Buddy. But they did want Buddy, but they didn't want Buddy. And then we got to convince Harrison Barnes to be something that he probably isn't, which is a go-to guy. I mean, he was good in Golden State as an option, but we haven't seen much from Harrison Barnes since he's been in Dallas and in Sacramento. He's just being shipped around. For all the money he's making, he ain't hitting the shots like you would think he would. But then you have to ask yourself, what is Luke Walton going to do with this roster? The team doesn't seem like they want to stay healthy, but Luke Walton is their coach. I don't know what Luke Walton's doing. I'm not even sure if Luke Walton knows what he's doing with his hands. So that's going to be potentially their downfall. Next, we have the San Antonio Spurs. Oh, how the Titans have fallen. 20 plus years of dominance in the NBA where they were able to compete every single year. Remember, Greg Popovich, Pop is still Pop. And he's still out there coaching his butt off with a bunch of players that we have no clue who they are yet. The only problem that Pop has is that he doesn't have one of the greatest players in NBA history anymore. If you don't have that type of player, you're not winning in this league. That's going to be the holdback. So the question is how are their drafting going to do? How they're going to construct their rosters? Who they're going to be able to attract down to San Antonio, even though they haven't been able to attract anyone to San Antonio, outside of the fact that they drafted their big three and was able to compete with them. Unfortunately, Spurs fans, you'll be joining us Thunder fans trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do for the future as we develop all this young talent in hopes to getting back to the elusive championship contendership. We'll see what happens. I was around for the Dennis Rodman blonde era with him and David Robinson. They were winning, but nothing to really run home to. And I feel like this is going to be the team that the Spurs are going to be for the next foreseeable future, actually. A team that's doing enough winning, but not enough to get anywhere. Next up, we have the Toronto Raptors. No Kawhi, no problem, right? Wrong. 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 The Raptors have gone back to the team that could not get past LeBron James back in the day. And now the problem they have is since they don't have Kawhi or a player of Kawhi's caliber, they're going to have to figure out how to get past Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kevin Durant, and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Because of that, I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do. Kyle Lowry is starting to get old. They do have rising stars in Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, who is the original Twitter fleet. To me, this is the year of building for the future. Nick Nurse is still a solid coach. He's able to get them to the playoffs. But without someone to really take over, I don't see it happening. That is getting past all the big boys in the East this year. Next up, the Utah Jazz. Got to give it to the squad, man. They're really just one of those teams that just doesn't go away. They seem to compete every year, but not compete all at the same time. I got to give it to them. Donovan Mitchell is improving. He's growing. You got Joe Ingles, one of our favorite antagonists in the league. And then they just gave Rudy Gobert a whole bunch of money to not really score points. Now, he is the defensive architect. He is the anchor, the reason why their defense is so stout. But you got to ask yourself, is that going to get them past the Lakers? Is that going to get them past the Clippers? Is that going to get them past the Suns? Will that get them past Portland? There's a lot of questions to ask about the way this team is constructed, and I'm not sure if we have that many answers. If Mike Conley can stay healthy, I can see more. But Mike Conley ain't shown that he stayed healthy. The only reason why he opted is because it's 30-something million. Who's going to not take that, especially in the open market when you ain't getting nowhere near it? So good luck, Jazz. Good luck, Jazz fans. Enjoy this year. It's going to be a fun year if the Jazz can get past the second round. Last but not least, the Washington Wizards. They just traded for Russell Westbrook from Houston, replaced John Wall, which gives them a guard that has actually played basketball in the last 2 years. To add to their dynamic two, Bradley Beal, who has been snubbed the last few years. And so they should be playing with a big chip on their shoulders. If you look at their roster, it looks like they may have something that can compete. But the question is will the media try to make Russ the villain like they always do, piss off everybody in the organization, and they implode on their own? I don't know. But I don't see anything about this roster that says you will win the East. That's why I don't have him even as one of the top contenders in the East right now. They have to prove to me wrong that they can do something that no one believes in them being able to do. Is that a bad thing for them? Don't know. Might be fuel. But they may need a whole bunch of fuel to get through this season, especially since Westbrook has gone through a procedure on his knee every year for the last 7 years? Some sort of a procedure? That's not good for a guard that's getting up in age like him, especially because he's such a hard worker. He may overwork himself and hurt the roster more than help. But let's also see what Bradley Beal can do with another point guard that's ball dominant to get him the rock. If Beal can handle it, they may mesh well and actually do well going into the playoffs. But I don't think they have enough firepower to get past the likes of the juggernauts that are in the East, which it seems like the East have taken the power. I don't see them having enough firepower to get through them. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll find out. Hey guys, thanks for checking us out. This is the reason why I hate your teams. Doesn't mean none of your teams can win it. I just don't like certain things about everybody. So let us know in the comments what you think, and we will go from there. Good luck this season. We'll have a pod out soon. Talk to you guys in a few days. Peace.